making fun of each other and taking the piss out of each other, as my fellow Brits like to say. I said my fellow Brits. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Hickson Diaries. For those of you who are new here, my name is Mandy and I'm an American that's now living here in the UK. And in this video, I wanted to share some of the things that I had to leave behind in order to really thrive here in my new home across the pond. Some old habits, mindsets, and honestly, some deeply ingrained American ways of thinking. Number one, seeking outside validation. So in the United States, there is a constant need to prove yourself. Opportunity is there. You just have to work really, really hard. The mindset is you work hard, you can achieve the American dream. It's all about how much you put in. You're never gonna ever make any of the shots if you don't keep shooting, if you keep working hard, making sure that you look really good, making sure that you are seen, making sure that you're visible in front of all the right people, you're saying the right things, you're wearing the right clothes, and you're listening to the right music, and you are in the right locations. Just keeping up with everyone's expectations. That is life in America in a nutshell. But here in the UK, I kind of had to learn the hard way that no one really cares. I had to figure out that not every single person on the street notices my new shoes. Most of them won't. Most of them are just caught up in their own stuff. They're just trying to get where they gotta go. And they could really, really care less what I'm wearing, what I'm listening to, what my hair looks like. Don't get me wrong. It's not as though the UK doesn't care about appearances at all. There is a great fashion sense here in the UK. It's really thriving. It's very diverse. There's lots of people that drive nice cars. There's people that are willing to work really hard to get that promotion or to get to the next step in their career. It's just that it's not outwardly motivated. It's motivated by an internal drive. I want those shoes. I want this car. I want this house. I want to be able to get this promotion. I want to be able to get to a certain point in my life from inside. It's about self-worth and it's about self-validation. And honestly, letting go of all of that pressure, finally breathing after holding my breath for a really long time, that kind of relief and just satisfaction of being able to breathe oxygen again. And if you're constantly chasing that external approval, you're really missing out on living a life that is full and fulfilling for yourself. Number two, the need to strive for perfection. Look, perfection is really overrated. No matter what task you're doing or if you're talking about yourself, you're never going to achieve perfection. No one ever does. Everybody is flawed. Everybody has things they can work on. Everyone's a work in progress, and everyone does their best to get through the day and get on to the next stage of their life. In America, it seems like perfection is everything. Whether it's your job, whether it's your social life, or your appearance, your partner, your kids, what activities they're in, what schools they go to, everything is about appearance and the appearance of being perfect, the appearance of fitting a certain mold. In the UK, that is not the case. Imperfection is actually embraced. You're able to just let go and embrace who you are and just feel comfortable with even your flaws. Now, don't get me wrong, it's Britain and they're gonna make fun of you because it's Britain. Making fun of each other and taking the piss out of each other, as my fellow Brits like to say. I said my fellow Brits. Moving on, I had to learn that it was okay to make mistakes and that not everything in my life has to be flawless and that a perfect life is really subjective. And sometimes embracing those imperfections, whether it be with somebody, with your actions, or with your job, is actually the crust of life, the really good stuff. It's kind of cool that you can do that. In all fairness. And once I was able to kind of let go of all of that pressure to be perfect or to have everything in a certain way or look a certain way or in a certain area, I just felt lighter. I felt calmer. I feel happier. And if you're someone that's been stuck in that cycle of perfectionism, I encourage you to really take some time to consider what you think freedom feels like and go for that instead. And stop worrying about being perfect, because most of the time nobody cares anyway, and you're just making yourself crazy for no reason. Number 3, letting go of past perceptions. So when I first moved here, I had all of these ideas about what life was going to be like in the UK, based on all the times I had visited, based on things that my partner and other people in my life had told me, based on things that I had seen in the movies and things that I had read about the culture here, and of course, all those stereotypes that come in as well. But it turns out, like most things in life, it's not as it seems, and it usually is a lot more complex than what you think it's gonna be. I had to leave behind all of those old assumptions and all of that arrogance that I knew what I was getting into to really understand and really embrace the culture here. And I thought that everyone here, for example, would be drinking tea in a perfectly stick upper lip way with their pinky up. And I don't know why that's a thing. Like, they don't. I've never met anyone, not one person, that does that. They do have their biscuits with their tea, though. Getting free from what I thought I knew about the British culture and what I thought my life was going to be actually ended up opening up an entire new world for me. Letting go of that old perception, it allowed me to just have an open mind to all of the richness that was in front of me. And it really gave me an even better life than I could have imagined or thought I was going to have living here. Number 4, the idea that working is enough. In the United States, everybody's hustling all the time. Now, some of that, in all fairness to my fellow Americans, is out of necessity because it's a very, very difficult economic situation right now. In the US, it is very hard to be a working person in the United States right now. But the whole idea of making yourself into something out of nothing, or that even a poor immigrant can rise up to become, president of the United States or something of that same stature, is the American dream, is the whole idea that we sell the world on about America. So hustle is built into the culture. Even if you're in a comfortable job where you are making decent money and you are not in an economically stressful situation, you still end up working yourself into the ground because that's what's expected of you by your boss, by society, by culture itself in America. Here in the UK, I really, really quickly learned that working hard isn't the same as working intentionally. You know, that whole adage of work smart, not hard. Here, you can leave the office at 5 and you don't feel like a failure and you don't feel like you're letting anyone down. Kind of a revolutionary concept, right? I'm just gonna blow past that one. Not only did I feel less stressed and do I have an opportunity to really enjoy my life and the people that are in it, my productivity actually went up because I knew I didn't have those extra 15 minutes, or I knew I wasn't gonna work through lunch. So I was more focused and I was more intentional on all of the decisions that I was making and how I was doing my schedules at work. Also, because I was able to leave at the time that I was scheduled to leave, and I was able to have all of that downtime and relax and spend time with my loved ones, I didn't feel so exhausted coming into work the next day. It took me a little while to shift from doing everything to doing just the right things, but now that I've embraced that and I've really made it a part of my everyday life, overloading my schedules is not an option anymore, and life is just making much more sense and it's much more fun. The next one is not choosing to fit in and embracing my uniqueness. I have to admit, when I first arrived, I was really focused on fitting into the British culture. And I kind of put this added pressure on myself too, that because I had a British partner, that it was expected of me to be a little bit more British than the average American that's coming to live here in the UK. And I wanted that so badly. I didn't want to stand out. I wanted to be like the American that's not the stereotypical American. But I did learn that by embracing my own quirks and embracing who I am, that being authentic in the end always goes over better. And the real key is to just thrive and not conform to a mold. So really, who's got time to blend in? Like, who cares about whether or not I fit in? I'm not trying to be anything that I'm not anymore. I'm here. I am who I am. I'm going to make my own path and be my own person. And when you stop trying to embrace being someone else, you get to be free to be yourself. And you get to be more relaxed, and you get to spend more time with people that actually you vibe with and that bring your life value and that you value being near and around. It's a little bit tough. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little bit of a hurdle. If you can master it, it's really, really rewarding. I got so much more out of this than trying to fit in, and I'm never gonna try to fit into anyone else's mold ever again. Number 6. Sometimes people are gonna be upset, and it's okay to just let them. This is one that I still kind of struggle with, I'm not gonna lie. I grew up in a situation where emotions were always really high, and if someone was upset, it affected the entire household, and everyone kind of had to stop and deal with whatever the issue was that was making that person upset. So I grew up really, really conscious about what other people thought of me and doing my best to please rather than to do what made me happy or do what made me feel good. And I realized, finally, in my old age, I'm not here to be liked by everyone. And no matter how hard I try, someone's probably going to get upset somewhere along the lines. And you know what? It's okay. I can't please everyone. And frankly, when I did try, I just ended up really exhausted and stressed and miserable. Plus, the British people are low-key pretty amazing at ignoring drama. Like, most of the time, they don't want to get involved. They don't want to create. It's just a very keep calm and carry on. That whole attitude from the war, still very prevalent today. It's all about keeping the community together, doing your thing by all means, but making sure that you're not causing a fuss and you're not being disruptive in any way. And personally, once I stopped seeking approval and finally started living for me, I ended up making more friends and having more meaningful relationships than I ever had in my life. And that freedom is worth gold. Number 7 is learning to help those who need it, not those who expect it or those who are just trying to get something for free. In the UK, I've had to get really honest about who deserves my time and who deserves my energy. There is a very communal culture here in the UK, and it is set up to help those that are most dire and most in need to thrive and at least do better. In the US, it's not really like that. And you hear a lot of stories and you end up encountering a lot of people that are trying to buck the system or trying to get something for nothing or expecting something and being entitled for something. While there are situations in the US where that is completely valid and you should get what you're entitled to and you should get what is expected, there's a lot of cases where people are getting rewarded for things they're not really doing, and they're expecting other people to help them and push them along rather than them actually walking the walk and talking the talk. I used to be a person that would lend a hand to all those people, and I used to be a person that would do whatever I could to help them thrive. But in the end, I was the one who was missing out, and I was the one who was always left behind. I've learned there are people that deserve help. There are people that actually benefit and appreciate the help, and you can give all of that energy to those people, but you don't have to hold their hand the whole way, and you don't have to be responsible for any fallout that comes if you decide it's time to take your hand away. It is hard to set boundaries, and it's something that's kind of a fluid thing for me. I set boundaries and sometimes I have to adjust them, but I think that's part of life. Once you start doing it more often, it gets a lot more comfortable, and you start to realize that things sometimes are just not good for you, and you have to let them go, or you have to get that person out of your life. And it's really good for you to have those boundaries, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. It ends up opening more avenues to you, which is ironic and weird, but true. So those are the 7 things that I felt like I had to leave behind from my life in the US that allowed me to really thrive in my new life here in the UK. None of them were easy. I'm still working through some of them, but in the end, I'm much, much happier than I was living in the US because I was able to let go of a lot of these things and be in an environment where the opposite is actually encouraged and you have opportunities to pursue. If any of this resonated with you, or if you think maybe I'm being a little silly, maybe I should have learned earlier in my life, let me know in the comments below. And if you have your own version of this, I'd really love to hear it as well. If you could hit that like button on your way out, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.